Wonderful. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Gina Reganini. I'm the Director of Educational Initiatives and Alumni Relations, and I'm so excited to welcome you to our very first session of Husky How To. This series offers insight on a variety of topics given by Northeastern faculty, staff, and expert alumni. And today's session, 10 Things About Money You Need to Hear, is a great one to start us off. I'll introduce our speaker in a moment, but first, for some housekeeping. If you need closed captions, you can turn them on in your settings in this Zoom meeting. We will have remarks from our presenter, followed by time for a Q&A from the audience. Please add your questions to the chat at any time, and I will moderate after the presentation. As I mentioned, this session is being recorded and we will post it to the Alumni Relations YouTube channel afterwards, and I'll put that link in the chat for you as well. I encourage you to check out some of our other recordings there as well. There's some great content on there. And for now, I am pleased to introduce Dr. Fareed Hawwa, Assistant Teaching Professor in the College of Professional Studies. Dr. Hawwa is an experienced financial expert with an extensive background as a head analyst and head of trading at a hedge fund in Chicago, and also has a BA from NYU and a Ph.D. from LSU in math. He has shared this presentation with Northeastern staff and faculty to rave reviews, and we are so grateful he has agreed to share it with our alumni as well. Dr. Hawwa, thank you for being here today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Let me share my screen for you. Okay. Can everyone see this PowerPoint?
Yep.
Looks great for me.
Okay. If I was to ask everyone on this Zoom call to stand up one by one and tell me your height, you probably would just do it, even if you thought it was a little weird, even if you thought it was too personal, you probably would just do it. It happens to me a lot, and I don't even know why. Someone's standing next to me, hey, how tall are you? I just say 5'10", without even really knowing why they're asking. And I'd like to think that many people share my view of this type of question. But when we think about height, it's kind of personal. You learn it at the doctor's office officially, then it's on your driver's license. So it's kind of personal, but we would just say it, I think. Why do I think most people would just say what their height is? I think it's because your height is obvious. It's very hard for someone like Shaquille O'Neal to stand up and say, I am 5'1". It's very hard for someone, let's say in the NBA, who's over 6'10", to walk through the airport and have someone not know how tall they are. So it's hard to hide your height. And it's also really, really hard to lie about your height. Okay, maybe okay, I'm 5'10", maybe sometimes I wish I was 6 feet tall, but it's just really not worth it because it's obvious. Okay. Now, what if I asked everyone in the room, how much do your parents make? How much credit card debt do you have? Do you have an emergency fund for if you lose your job? How much did you spend on Uber Eats last month? How many subscription services do you have that you don't use? Do you have life insurance? How much credit card debt do you have? Those are things that are easy to lie about and not obvious and can be very, very difficult and emotional for anyone to talk about, whether it's with your family, your spouse, your children, your friends. It is very, very easy to lie about it because talking about it can be extremely difficult and painful. That's what we're going to talk about today. First, who am I? You heard my intro. Let me just reiterate briefly. I am a math professor in the College of Professional Studies at CPS. I have been at Northeastern University for 6 years. I grew up in North Providence, Rhode Island. I went to NYU, then LSU for a PhD in math. Armed with all of this math, I became a bartender because it was the subprime mortgage crisis and Wall Street wasn't hiring. Fun job, taught me a lot about customer service, human nature, human behavior. Great. Then I got the tap to join a startup hedge fund in Chicago. Cool. We built it up. And upon my departure in 2018, I was the partner and head of trading, and we managed $250 million at our highest. Learned a lot of things about money at that time. I'm going to share some of them with you. In 2018, I left that life and took a year off, moved back to New England, and I have been at Northeastern since July 1st, 2019. Specifically, I teach math and finance in the foundation year program within Northeastern University. It is in the Opportunities Pathways program. It's a first year, freshman year program. If you have any interest, I invite you to Google it. It's a wonderful program, and I love teaching in it. This was my desk for many, many years, 7 years. 6 screens. One of them showed the S&P 500. One of them showed the gold chart. One of them showed trading ladders. One screen was for email. One screen was for spreadsheets. And this was my life. 7:15 in the morning, arrive there, leave at 4:15. Often have to go back overnight, often on the weekends, sometimes not going home. And I formed a lot of opinions, Freudian slip. I formed a lot of opinions about money from what I learned at this desk, the good, the bad, many things in between. I saw a lot of desperation, and I found out that often we learn the most about money during times of desperation. When it's good, we are all distracted by other things. When desperation strikes, that's when you learn the truth. And I saw tons of it from right there. Let me cover my liability briefly for all of you. Before we begin, let me just read this to you, please. I am not a financial advisor. The information contained in this presentation is not a substitute for financial advice from a professional who is aware of the facts and circumstances of your individual situation. What you are about to see are just my general opinions from working in the finance world. I have found that the best way for me to talk about money, investing, anything money related is to assume zero knowledge from the audience. Now, that is not true. I see people of many different age groups in this presentation. So if I say something you already know, just know that many, many times I have given a presentation and I thought it was all stuff people already knew, and then the flood of feedback was the exact opposite. So some of this is high level, some of it is for students. So all of you might probably know current students either in your life or in your family. I invite you to share anything that you already know or that is, maybe beneath your current knowledge. And if you learn something, great. I hope you do. In no particular order, here we go. 10 things about money that you need to hear or that I would like to tell you. Here we go. First, learn early about the power of compound interest, or it will teach you the hard way. I have a saying that's not so nice. It's that people only learn things the hard way. I think the more tame way to say that is experience is the best teacher, but in a high stress environment like Wall Street, like hedge funds, sometimes tact goes out the window. So I often say, look, if you're doing this type of trade, you're probably going to end up learning the hard way not to ever do it again. So go ahead and learn. First, the good part. There's something called investment calculator on the internet. I invite you to use it. Take a look at this, and hopefully this comes full circle. Where it says starting amount, zero. So assume this is the beginning of your professional life. Maybe you're 25 years old, graduate college, you have a few jobs that aren't really career jobs, maybe something in the service industry or something kind of a labor job while you're sorting your life out, sorting out your dreams, figuring out exactly what kind of field you want to be in. If you found something that returned 10.06% a year and you invested $300 a month in it for 35 years, look to the right. You would have invested $126,000 of your money, reasonable, but it would be worth $1 million. Great. We all want to retire millionaires. We all want to have comfortable retirements. Okay. What stops people from doing this? We'll get into it. But here it is. This is math. Where did these numbers come from? You'll see. If someone is 25 years old, is 35 years of investing a reasonable time horizon, reasonable time period? I say yes. When we're 40, we can still work for the most part, right? We're not so, our bodies are still very gung-ho. I'm 42. Yeah, great. When you're 60, so you have been working for 35 years, now maybe you are starting to think, okay, I can't do this job for much longer, or I don't want to do this job for much longer. I want to retire. When I teach my finance class at Northeastern, personal finance, I tell them the first day, to clean the math, I'm going to assume all of you are exactly 20 years old. So when I talk about 30 years from now, it's when you all are starting to think about retirement. When I talk about 40 years from now, you are actively thinking about retirement. When I talk 50 years from now, you are retired, just to clean the math. So here we are. Take a good look at this here. Many people that I know personally would take something like $300 a month and save it and put it in a savings account and say that that is for my retirement. It's gaining 3.5% at this bank. Sometimes it's gaining nothing if it's in a checking account and if someone is not aware of rates and money market. Those people retire with the 126,000 number. And they might be happy. I saved all of this money and now I get Social Security. Let's say that's $2,000 a month and my house is paid off. If things get really bad, I can sell it and get whatever, 300,000. And I have this cash for if bad things happen, a medical emergency, college tuition for a child, grandchild, any type of emergency. So now I ask you, would you like to be the person with the $126,000 under a mattress? Or for that same commitment of $300 a month, would you rather be the person who is 50, 60 years old with $1 million? Okay, let's just think about that for a second. Okay. Where are you going to find an investment that historically has paid over 10% a year? Seems impossible. Seems like a get-rich-quick scheme, right? Invest 10,000. The next year you'll have 11,000, 10%. You made a quick thousand. Seems like a get-rich-quick scheme, maybe like an infomercial. Call and invest now, and I will give you this, this, this. Uh-huh. Which leads me to topic number two, thing number two. Most of the best investments are boring, boring. People hear about my past and they know about my math education. And when they ask me what I am invested in, they are expecting stuff they have never heard of. I have an options iron condor on this penny stock. This new crypto came out and I put everything into it. Then I flipped that into a this. Nope. Most people are extremely let down when they hear about my investments. It's like when I go to a wedding, my nameplate says Dr. Hawwa, and someone says, "What kind of doctor are you?" I say math, and I just see the excitement just kind of drip off their faces. Let's see. Huh. Thanks for the smiley face, Gina. I can't see any of your faces. I hope you think at least some of my jokes are funny. Let's consider the S&P 500 index. First, what is it? A great place to start for almost any type of questions about finance, money, stocks, investing is this website called Investopedia. Obviously, a play on Wikipedia, but it's just geared towards the very detailed words associated with finance. Something like equities, the whatever, New York Stock Exchange. What is that? What is a call option, a put option? What's a warrant? What's a stock split? Things like that are what this site is more geared towards. Wikipedia, you Google any celebrity, you look up any celebrity, and you have it. Investopedia is really for that. I have been using it for many years, and it's a great resource for any of you that want to know something at any point in your life. At the bottom there, you see the S&P is an equity index. Equity means stocks, pretty much, made up of 500 of the largest companies traded on either the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, or the CBOE, which is in Chicago. Basically, it's a basket of the 500 biggest companies in the US that have a stock that you can trade publicly. Many companies are private, others are public, and the S&P 500 is the collection of the 500 biggest. What happens if a company has the plight of BlackBerry phones, for instance? Top of the world, the presidents at the time, President Obama had a BlackBerry. There was many people. I had one. I loved the keyboard. It was definitely one of the biggest 500 companies in the US. Now, I don't know anyone that has one. The S&P 500 is designed to go up. It doesn't always go up, but it is designed to go up. Every year or every quarter, the S&P 500 reserves the right to kick out an underperforming company and replace it with a new one. So BlackBerry is no longer in the S&P 500, but it once, oh no, it was in Canada. That's just an example. It happens every quarter where companies leave and better companies replace them. So by nature, the S&P 500 is designed to go up over time. What time horizon, though? Overnight, like we want to make money on crypto? Maybe, maybe not. Think 35 years. Who among us would not love to own something that had a price appreciation like this? This is the S&P 500. Way to the left in the 80s, you can see the bottom leftmost date is 1990. Way to the left in the 80s, when I was born, you could see the S&P 500 was under 1,000. Now it's 6,000. This is something designed to go up. Many of these ups and downs, especially in the later years, I was sitting in that chair that I showed you the picture of. There was a crash on August 24th, 2015. The market went down 7% as soon as the market opened. That is huge. Brexit in 2016, the market went limit up, then limit down, which means it's like it hits the ceiling, hits the floor. They can't go anymore. That's crazy. The presidential election of 2016, I was in that chair. Also, the day after the Super Bowl in 2018, there was a volatility crash right around 1 p.m. on a Monday. Most traders are at lunch. Most C-level bankers are having lunch, golfing. Just it's kind of a time when nothing happened. There's a saying on Wall Street, before you freak out, zoom out. We all can look at CNBC.com and tell when the market's having a bad day. We look at the paper the next day and we see the big title, market crash, market crash. But who among us would not love to own something with the price appreciation of this chart right here? This is the S&P 500. I often tell people, when you consider the stock market, imagine a human heart beating. Your human heart does not stay the same volume every second of every day. Can you see my hands? Here we go. Now imagine this human heart lying on a beach, and it's beating, it's beating. Slowly, over time, the water takes it out further and further, further and further into the water. And what would you notice if you were watching it? The human heart is beating and going up and down with the waves. But as long as it is still there and still in the game, we might say, the distance from the heart to the ocean floor would keep growing. This is what the stock market is like. This is how I imagine it. The human heart beating is the daily fluctuations of any day. We love Apple stock. We love stocks like Microsoft, but they don't go up every second of every day. The trading nature of Wall Street has buying and selling going on, so nothing will go up every second of every day. The human heart beating is like the daily fluctuations. But as this heart is traveling further and further away from the beach, waves are bringing it way up and way down. Those you think of as the events. A presidential election moved the stock market. A terrorist attack somewhere moved the stock market. Good earnings from a massive company moved the stock market. A CEO scandal moved a huge company's stock and moved the market. This is how I like to imagine it. So we don't want to think about always what the size of the heart is or where it is within a wave. We want to think over time, how high up above the ocean floor will it be? So look at what I highlighted in blue. What is the average return of the S&P 500? 10.06. Do you remember seeing that in my table 4 slides ago? If not, there you go. On the left, the third white box, 10.06. You all can Google any of this. There will be years where the market doesn't do what we want. Then there will be years where the market goes up 20%. You factor in reinvesting dividends, you factor in things like inflation, etc. But here's what you got. So now consider the $126,000 under someone's mattress or in a savings account losing its potential a little bit every year due to inflation, or someone growing that same amount of money into $1 million. Now, that million is going to lose its power, its spending power every year due to inflation. But remember, we want inflation. Inflation is good. Too much of it is bad. Too little of it makes our currency not so great. We want just that little bit. That 1.5% to 3% per year is healthy. When you consider 1.5% to 3% a year being healthy, think to yourself, is your money appreciating more than that? And not overnight, not in a year, not in 5 years. Think of the heart on the beach. You want to see it ending up halfway between here and Europe, as opposed to still within your eyesight as you're looking for from the beach. You can adjust for inflation. You can adjust for that. Are the 1930s really relevant now? Adjust how you wish, but this is the basic idea. I want to re-say this quote so I don't genderize it, but here is the actual quote. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He or she who understands it earns it. He or she who doesn't pays it. So now instead of thinking about a human heart, let me ask you to think about a snowball. Okay. It snowed yesterday. We like snow sometimes. Imagine you are at the top of a hill and you see a big piece of hail or a tiny snowball fall on the top of a mountain or a hill, and it starts rolling. As it's rolling, it's getting bigger for two reasons. One, it's still snowing. So as it's falling down the hill, it's getting snow landing on it. It's also growing because it's accumulating snow off the ground. So from the top, you are viewing something with joy. You're saying, this snowball is growing. This is a beautiful thing. Now, that snowball from the top of the mountain is your investments, your retirement, your 401k. It's still snowing on the snowball. That's that you are still working. You are still contributing to it. The snow it accumulates from the ground is the compound interest getting reinvested. From the top, this is a beautiful thing. Now you look at the bottom and you see someone that the snowball is heading towards. This person is hoping, praying for the snowball to stop growing. Is that possible? Usually not. We can't fight nature, and a snowball accumulating, rolling down a hill is natural. Think about if every day, you woke up and prayed and hoped that it would never rain. Not possible. Rain is natural. We don't want to put ourselves in the position to have to hope that something natural doesn't happen. What does this snowball have to do with Einstein and what I'm talking about? Let's talk about credit cards first. All of you are alum. You already have credit cards, probably. I just want to leave this in just for your knowledge in case you get asked by someone younger, or in case you are a very recent alum and you don't have much experience in the world of credit, FICO scores, etc. I'll go quickly here because I think this is probably well known by all of you. In my personal finance class at Northeastern, I encourage all students to get a credit card. A student credit card, which is a very short way to say a credit card with an extremely low credit limit. They can only put maybe $300 on it at a time, and no annual fee. Basically, it's a way to test, see if the student is trustworthy, etc. A very good resource for things credit card related is a website called NerdWallet. I'm very partial to this site because I am a massive nerd and it has a catchy title. There you go, NerdWallet. There's sections for everything on it, life insurance, whatever. And then I tell students, okay, find something that you spend money on every month. A lot of people have Netflix right now. Perfect. Use the Netflix, put it in your kitchen drawer. Don't use the credit card and just have your Netflix get paid from it and you pay it. Great. What that does is it starts building your credit score, your FICO score. The max is 850. The lowest is around, I want to say 300. And that's basically your report card as an adult. I joke to my friends that your Uber rating is your report card as an adult, but really it's your FICO score. Are you trustworthy? A common misconception that some have, especially younger people, is that using a debit card builds your FICO score, and it does not. Let's think about the last time any of us were at Dave and Buster's or any type of arcade. If you went in and played skee ball for an hour and you had 300 tickets, you go into that little store and you say, "What can I have for 300 tickets?" And you leave with a teddy bear and you are on your way. That's a debit card. No trust is involved. Credit card is you walk into Dave and Buster's and you grab the largest teddy bear and you say, "I promise to play skee ball for 4 hours and return with 10,000 tickets." And they say, "Sure, here's the teddy bear. See you in 4 hours. We trust that you will play skee ball forever and come back with 10,000 tickets." Will you return? Do most people return? Well, that's the difference between credit card and debit card. The bigger teddy bear that gave it to you at the beginning, that required trust. And so FICO, your FICO score is how much you can be trusted with money. Debit cards, the money's already yours and you are spending the tickets, spending the money, requires no trust. Credit cards require trust. The credit card company says, "Yeah, buy whatever you want, go out for sushi every week. At the end of the month, you better play skee ball for 4 hours." Credit card companies are your friend until you lose discipline. Think about walking on Huntington Avenue or anywhere in Boston at the start of the school year. You see people trying to sign everyone under the sun up for credit cards. Sign up for this phone plan, sign up for this, sign up for this. The most recent credit card that I learned of that is in existence is the Amtrak credit card. Used to be one 20 years ago. I had it and then it went away. Now I just saw it kind of resurface. Okay. I take the commuter rail from Providence, Rhode Island to Back Bay or Ruggles, and it's nice. Often I would prefer the Amtrak. It's half the time. Every seat has a plug. Every car has a bathroom. On the way back, there's a bar car. Okay, wonderful. Cafe car, I should say. Why would this company that is running trains offer me 50,000 Amtrak points just to sign up for the credit card? Why should I ride the train for free just to have this credit card? They are so nice. They're being so nice. I can't believe it. Why don't I just use this credit card, get it, and then I can go on Amtrak from here to Providence and be living the life of luxury. They want to be my friend. Here is the person at the bottom of the hill watching the snowball come towards them. When I used to live in Louisiana, one time I was driving and randomly a big truck kicked a rock onto my windshield and it broke. It shattered, you know, big crack in the windshield, and it just grew with time. I kind of ignored it for a little bit and it grew with time, $300. For some reason, insurance didn't cover it, so I had to pay it. These types of things happen to all of us. Medical emergencies, um, job loss, splurging happens all the time where someone plans to spend $10 tonight on dinner. Next thing you know, you get invited to a birthday party, $200 each, something like that. Or you lose track of your spending over the course of the month. So just look at the opposite of the snowball growing. This is the snowball coming at you and growing, and you have to stop it. So when you get your credit card, maybe some of you know this already, you get three amounts on your statement. You get the current balance, you get the statement balance, and you get the minimum payment. The minimum payment is the tiny amount that you can send them and they don't bother you for a month. This irritates me when I hear people saying, "Yep, I make the minimum payment on my credit card so that I don't get any late penalties or whatever." That's the snowball growing. Okay. Why do people make only the minimum payment on a credit card? Well, maybe it's to hide it from a parent, hide it from a spouse, hide it from a child, hide it from friends, hide it from yourself. But think about this, $1,500 on a credit card with only the minimum payment made every month. You would end up paying $2,000 in interest and the original 1,500. So compound interest can be your friend, the table at the beginning, the chart of the S&P, or it can not be your friend as shown here. Red for emphasis, shock value of this slide. I have a cat. Her name is Minnie. She's 4 years old. And what does that mean? That means that I had better have a really good vacuum. To research which vacuum I wanted, I spent about an hour. Amazon reviews, then I went to a store, made sure it wasn't too heavy, made sure it would fit in my closet, made sure it just kind of looked okay and wasn't like secretly this big when I lost sight of what I was looking at on Amazon. People will tell me that they bought a stock because of something whispered to them on a train or said at a bar or said at a restaurant. And when I hear about this, I ask the person, if you were going to buy a vacuum for that same amount of money, how much time would you have spent researching it? I hope that most people, either at the beginning of their career or at the end of their career, or while they're a student, make your financial mistakes with hundreds of dollars. Buy a vacuum worth of the newest crypto or the newest meme stock now when you're young, when you're younger, rather than doing it out of desperation when you're, let's say, 55 and about to retire and you have $70,000 in cash to your name and you're about to retire, and someone that you trust or someone you just met just says, buy this. Think about the vacuum. You'd spend an hour researching something for $300. How long should you spend for 70,000, six-figure amounts, bigger amounts? Reserve only small dollar amounts for risky investments. Why? Because they probably won't work. If you invested your net worth into building a sandcastle on the beach, you would spend every day hoping and praying that it doesn't rain, but rain is natural. So now, once again, with money, you do not want to put yourself in a position to where you are rooting for something natural to never happen. That is what makes us lose sleep at night. That's what destroys families, destroys marriages, destroys friendships. When you take a risk where you are not able to withstand something natural happening. When I worked at the hedge fund, at least once a year, there was a major crash. There was a flash crash in 2000, what was it, 12, 2000. Every year had something crazy happen, and my phone would be ringing off the hook. Fareed, what are you going to do? What are we going to do? And I said, look, it's raining. We don't live in the desert where it's raining. Just let the market breathe. This is natural. This one, we kind of know it, but it's so boring to talk about. And it's like a boring thing with money. Emergency fund just kind of sits there and hopefully never gets used. So we now, I am about to tell you all, have money that you never use or that you hope to never use. And I think that is why most people don't do this. Think about it for a second. If you had to think about what is the best stock investment that anyone could have ever made over the last 40 years, many people might say Apple stock. If you bought one share every week for the last 40 years, you would be extremely happy right now. But what if you had to sell it? You had to sell it because you needed the money. Then you would be one of the only people in the world saying, I lost money on the best investment anyone could ever possibly make. Anytime someone says to me, I lost money buying Microsoft, Tesla, Chevron, Apple, the monsters, I say, why did you sell it? They say, well, I had to. Why did you have to? Because they needed the money. That's where emergency funds come in. You don't think of an emergency fund as only making 1% in the bank. You want to think about it as the actual return this money sitting under your mattress is actually letting you earn by not making you sell investments that Warren Buffett does, that anyone that has good Wall Street acumen does. The emergency fund, hopefully 6 months of living expenses. I say gear it towards 12, because if you plan for it to be 12 months of your living expenses put aside, it is probably more like 6. We tend to downplay how much we need. So 6 months, 6 times rent, 6 times groceries, it usually doesn't take into account unexpected things. So let's say one of us in the room, let's say me, I'd lose my job. Okay, the 6 months replaces all of my living expenses. But then what if I break my arm? But then what if my windshield cracks again? What if anything unexpected happens? So I tell my class minimum 6 months, aim towards 12 months. That way we know it's probably really 6, and you don't have to sell something that you want to hold. Who wants to sell Apple unless you're retired and you're needing the money now? Who wants to sell something that is bought all over the world and held for decades? Let me discuss what dividends are, because it always kind of shocks me when someone says that they don't know what they are. So let me just do you all the favor and promise me you won't be offended if you already know this. Many companies agree to take some of their profits and give it to you for owning the stock. This is a profile from Yahoo Finance of Apple stock. I draw your attention to the blue underline and the green underline. The green underline has two numbers in it. The first one, 1.00, that's how many dollars per year per share you make. So if you have 1 share of Apple, you will get $1 a year. It will be given to you every 3 months, and 1/4 of it will be given to you every 3 months. Most dividends pay quarterly, so you will get 25 cents a share for each share of Apple that you own. What percentage is that? $1 divided by the share price, 232, gives you that percentage right next to it, 0.42. Anytime I am being asked in my finance class, Professor, what do you think of this stock? If it's one I've never heard of, I pull it up, and the very first thing, before I even look at anything, the very first thing I look at is that blue underline right there. Market capitalization. How much is the company worth? That letter T stands for trillion. And if that letter T is not a T, it had better be a B for billion. Otherwise, I think this company might not survive another COVID, another recession, another flat year of, let's say, consumer spending. So when you look at stocks, my suggestion is make sure that letter is a T or a B. Those dividends over time contribute to the snowball picking up snow from the ground, helping it grow. In addition to it still snowing, that's you still working, still adding to your investments, the 300 a month, helping the snowball grow. I could talk for 3 hours on this next slide. I won't, but unless you want me to, no, I won't. I want you to just see these terms and know the difference. Both financial instruments, a 401k and a Roth IRA, are two very, very different and distinct things. A 401k allows you to take your current salary and only pay taxes on a portion of it, because you take the rest and you invest it. The limit for doing that is $23,000 per year that you can give. Northeastern, for instance, matches some of my investment. That doesn't count towards the 23,000. Later on in life, when I start to use that money, I pay taxes on it as if it is income, and you pay income tax on it. A Roth IRA says, okay, make all your money, pay income tax on it. Then you can take some of that after-tax money, up to $7,000 a year, and invest it any way you want and never pay taxes on any of it ever again. Never pay taxes on the dividends in a Roth. You would have to in a personal account. never pay taxes. And when you take it out or on any trading gains, let's say you wanted to day trade in your Roth in a personal account, not a Roth, you pay taxes on all of your gains. In a Roth, you do not. That's why there's the limit, so that someone doesn't put $100,000 in it and never pay taxes on that. And there's an income limit. If you make over, I believe, $146,000 a year, you are not allowed to make a Roth contribution that year. So there's all of these rules, but for a majority of the population, we qualify to invest in a Roth. So I suggest that anyone who is unfamiliar or not familiar with either 401k, 403B is the official term for someone like working at a college or nonprofit or hospital, same thing, and Roth IRA. I strongly suggest you just Google them. Okay. Take a look at my morning coffee. I love this slide because it's kind of stupid looking. On the right is a Northeastern Yeti that I got for the from the CPS conference like 3 years ago. In the middle is an electric kettle that I bought, God, 15 years ago for like $12 on Amazon. It still works. I love it. I used it this morning. And on the left is instant coffee. Okay, so now, am I trying to convince all of you to start drinking instant coffee? No. Am I trying to convince all of you to get a kettle from Amazon and start boiling water instead of doing it the way that you might prefer? No. And am I trying to say that all of you should get a Northeastern Yeti? Maybe, but no. The point is, I don't like coffee. I don't care about how coffee tastes. I don't know the difference between good coffee and bad coffee. When I lived in Louisiana, I would leave my house and get a 50-cent cup of coffee from a gas station that the me now would probably not want to go to. I could not tell the difference in taste. I need coffee because I'm working. I want to be awake. I like how it makes me feel, but I don't like coffee. For each of you, I implore you, find something that you don't like that most people waste money on. In my finance class, I see students walking in with very expensive looking Starbucks drinks or Dunkin' Donuts drinks. As the class goes on, I see less and less of them, but it kind of makes me like, why are they spending all this money? Because they like coffee. So it's fine. Find your coffee. Find your thing that you don't care about, that you are wasting money on, and that will contribute to the $300 that you can invest in the stock market and have your snowball growing. We learn things by memes these days. So is there a meme that can just summarize my whole talk? I could have just texted any of you here this meme, and you would have learned probably the same amount that I just spent 50 minutes explaining. Here it is. When someone asked me last night, actually, what's your talk about? I just texted them this meme. Everyone is looking for some quick money hack that doesn't exist. There's no shortcut. Luck, but we don't want to count on luck. Spend less than you make, invest the difference, and do that over long periods of time. That's it. That's the money hack. We saw the S&P chart. We've seen the chart of Apple. If you're a crypto person and you're in it for the long term, you've seen the chart of Bitcoin go from $100 to $100,000, long periods of time. Here is the last thing. Some people are so poor, all they have is money. I love this saying. And why do you all think I love this saying so much? Because this was me. When my life only revolved around making money, having money, showing off with money, judging people by how much money they had, looking down on people that weren't making as much or didn't have as much, I was miserable. Definitely. If you let money control your life, you will be poor mentally and possibly actually. Sorry, I just spilled my water bottle. All right. I am much happier now. that money does not control my life. I have a stress-free job and I'm happier than I've ever been. So please keep this in mind when you make money decisions. I thank you all for your time, and I can't see the chat yet, so let me look at it, and I'm happy to take any of your questions. I hope you learned something, and if not, thanks for being here anyway.
Thanks, Dr. Hawwa. That was really great. Like we had talked about before the presentation, this was a great mix of, your personal story mixed in with some really helpful insight about money and finances. I do want to dive into the questions. We've got a couple of good ones in the chat. So Meg H said, I am an alum, and this was hammered to me growing up. But when I graduated, it took me a few years to stop being stupid, Meg's words, not mine, and set up myself with a financial advisor and get my investments together. Yes, still young, but I missed out for 5 years. Please tell me that this is a mandatory class for students near their end of time at Northeastern now. So maybe a bit of a rhetorical question, but wanted to bring it up anyway, given your experience teaching undergrads.
It is an elective, but if I was the supreme ruler of the world, it would be required for even in high school. Because when you think about it, the snowball needs time. It needs time more than it needs attention. So something like a 401k contribution that really doesn't need your attention once you set it up. You could check it if you feel like it. I check mine once a week, maybe just to make sure that it is what I expect. But really what you need is time. So to the asker of that question, I say that 5 years, just be thankful it's not 15 or 25 because that is super common. Super common. I bet you know over 50 people in your life where your 5 is their 15 and their snowball is going to be 1/10 of yours, hopefully. So congrats on the beginning. Better late than very late.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Eric Lattimore has a question. Big believer of compound interest here, and also understand that S&P 500 returns close to 10% on average. But why not teach people here to use 7% as their real rate of return? And in parentheses, it says 10% minus 3% for average inflation.
Yeah. Well, it's really so that to clean the math up. You can see the 7% in there. I mentioned inflation 3%, 10%, just I don't know, kind of, let's see. Maybe I should switch it to that, actually, now that you mention it. Yeah, let me think about that. Good. Thanks for the info. Um,
I think you did address that at some point, like later in the slides. I'm pretty sure you said that.
Yeah, I mean, I like using 10 because it doesn't change the amount of money you have. If I adjusted it with the 7%, it's more so talking about the value of the money. The 10% is more what the actual amount is. So would you rather have $1 million in the 1960s or $1 million in 2040? Of course, 1960s. It was worth more, but the actual amount is a million both times. I think that's the way that I most prefer someone to think about it. But the real power of your money is that calculation that you said 10 minus 3 is 7. But we don't know what inflation is going to be in the future. We can only really know what our amounts are going to be if we like use these percentages, the historical percentage of the actual amounts that you have as opposed to their power. So I'm definitely I'm giving this talk again next month. I should think about that. Leaning towards sticking with 10, but you're right that yeah, give me something to think about. Thank you.
Love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Rachel Schneider asks, are credit cards with travel benefits or other rewards worth it?
Yes, I think so. So I'm flying to Chicago tomorrow, and the ticket was free from my Delta credit card, but I pay it every month. So there's only one annual fee of $100, and I have never once paid a cent of interest on the credit card. So let's say you want to go to the French Riviera. So you spend tons of money to get miles on your Delta card. That is where the snowball kind of is coming at you because that might not be reasonable way to use a credit card, to rack up the points on purpose with the goal of getting the big teddy bear at Dave and Buster's. If it's organic, using it for your everyday things that you can actually budget for, then they're great. They're great. I also have the Amazon credit card. And so all of my cat's stuff comes from Amazon. Once there's $10 on it, I get the Litter Genie refill. If there's ever $20 on it, I get the big box of food. Super convenient. But in no way do I let those things be the goal of having the credit card. So think of it as a perk, not a goal. If your goal is to use your Delta card to be able to go to the French Riviera in December, you are probably going to set yourself up for failure. But if your goal instead is, I will use the Delta card this year. Next March, I will see how many miles I have, and I will get the small teddy bear that I can actually not change my life to attain. So yeah, the Delta credit card. People always ask me how many credit cards I have, and I just tell them 5. I'll share them with all of you right now. I have the Hilton credit card that has no annual fee, the Amazon credit card that has a small annual fee, but I use the money and it's very awesome. Southwest credit card because I live in Providence and Boston, and there's Southwest flights everywhere. The Delta one because I used to have to leave the country all the time, and the Amex Platinum from when I was working at a hedge fund, and I just got addicted to having it. So 5, but really I only use 2 of them, the Amazon one and the Delta one. They all have good perks. I don't change my spending based on I want to keep this one like earning this much. I don't want to keep this one. Uh, those of you that know Northeastern's campus, there's a Hilton. The Hilton Back Bay is next door to Belvedere, where I am right now. Every once in a while, I get a free night at the Hilton. And I'm like, okay, cool. It took 4 years, but I got a free night at the Hilton Back Bay. All right, maybe a Celtics game, stay overnight, but it's not top of mind. If you let the perks be top of mind, that's when you will probably fall into trouble. Long answer, I know, but thank you, Rachel. I see your heart. Thank you.
Definitely good advice.
Yeah.
Stay the course.
Yep. That's a more
I think
succinct.
we have time for one last question from Eric Lattimore. Eric asks, what criteria would you use to determine if it is better to do a backdoor Roth IRA versus pay mortgage early versus max out 401k?
Yes, for that, I'm going to give the most annoying, least helpful answer ever. And I'm sorry. For that, you need a financial advisor that you're willing to open your books to. You're probably not willing to open your books in front of everyone in this meeting or even to me. Someone has to know your personal situation. So I don't know how much you owe on your mortgage. I don't know what your income is. I don't know how much credit card debt you have. I don't know if you have kids that you need to put through college. I don't know if you have an elderly parent that needs care. All of these things are what happens behind the closed door with the people in suits that look like they're not being helpful, maybe in the bank. Hey, can I get you a mortgage? Can I get you this? But for your question, that's what you need someone to open the books to. I saw someone's asking about high yield savings in the chat. The 2 I have are Marcus by Goldman Sachs and Amex high yield savings. They're both about 3.9%. That's probably not going to last. So if you're into that stuff, I would say research that.
Great to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have hit our time, so I'm going to put the links in the chat for both the Northeastern YouTube channel and our upcoming events. Thank you so much, Dr. Hawwa, for joining us and for this really insightful information. As I mentioned, we'll have this recording uploaded within the next business day or so. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all.